And that was actually my first experience to two pieces of software. One was called Hash Animation Master, and the other one was called Blender. And what it was just two guys at this really small booth. Well, I don't even know if they had a booth. I think they were just passing these CDs around. They were just giving CDs to people, and it was like Blender 3D, and I'm like, oh, okay. I put that in my bag. So I was really, really impressed with Animation Master, and we actually got to talk to the CEO, and Chris John was able to get a copy on the spot. It was like a $300 program, which was, at the time when you had all this software that was like $6,000, and we were seeing what they did with like how easy the rigging was, the smart skin where you could actually do the mesh deformation when like an arm rotates properly and all that stuff. We're like, wow, this is crazy. And so when I got home, because I already seen what Hash could do, and I got to play with Chris's copy over at his place, and the free software Blender, I put that on my computer. I did not like it. It did not make sense. I could not figure out how to do anything with it, even though some of the reels and videos they had on the disc were fairly impressive. But I was like, you know what? I don't understand how to use it, but Animation Master, I can do that. So I started using Animation Master. Yeah. Funny thing about Blender. Good thing their interface is changing. But anyway, that was like a super early version of Blender. That was before it was open source. So anyway, college happened. I went to college. I wasn't really too sure what I wanted to do. I think I watched Star Wars Episode 1, and say what you want about the movie, but that pod race sequence, I was just blown away. That was cool. And I mean, if you just watch the pod race sequence, yeah, you got to admire how awesome that was. I think...
Never mind we interrupt your story to bring you this awesome but irrelevant sequence.
Yeah, what was it, the Quidditch syndrome? Or the podcast?
Oh, yeah, the Quidditch. Yeah, I kind of have names for all of the different story pitfalls, and that one was the Quidditch one. But the pod race is another example of the same issue.
Yeah. So, but I really liked that, and I just loved the sound design. I was just like, man, people do this. This is so cool, and I really liked the technical side of creating music more than the actual creative side. And this is something that I started noticing that when I was looking back at my music, and just so you know how I made music, it was kind of accidental. Yeah, it had to sound good and it had to have structure, but I could not think of something in my head and then play it on the piano and then use that as my song. I had to basically plunk around on the keys, find something that worked, and then I could turn that into a song. And it was really frustrating for me that I could not just hear something in my head and then, play it out. Because I know other people could do it, and I took classes with people that could, and it was really frustrating. And I realized, yeah, maybe music isn't what I should be doing because I'm just not that good at it. And again, I'm going to get to this as far as why that was why I was like that as a composer. Yeah, I was realizing my music was just kind of cookie cutter, and I could only really do like the techno style of music. Which lends very well to the way I created. But it was really well produced, and the sound quality was good, and there wasn't any clashing notes. It was just uninspired music.
That is a great composition of loops.
Yeah.
I think I have the CD that has all those same loops on it.
Yeah, now what's funny is that I actually did not use loops.
Oh, well.
Oceanscape, yes. The drums were loops. But all my other stuff, I didn't do loops. It was all original.
Congratulations. That was the biggest turn off for me for techno music was all the loops everywhere.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, I get the point. Now that little melody, little jingle, you can cut it out.
Yeah. Okay. Well, actually, I see what you mean. Where it's techno music is repetitive, but for me, when I say loops, yeah, when I say loops, because you can actually buy sample CDs, and that's what Oceanscape had. It was I got a sample CD of drum and bass drum loops that were pre-recorded. I didn't have to create a drum pattern. There was one already provided for me that I could use. So those kind of loops. But yeah, music is, kind of repeats and whatever.
Even if you make a loop yourself, I mean, it's okay to have music repeat itself, but if it's just an obvious little single measure loop.
Yeah, that goes on throughout the entire song.
Yeah.
Yeah, which techno music pretty much does. I mean, the drum pattern doesn't really change that much. Occasionally you have like a bridge or something, but yeah. So, so I went to BYU, Idaho. I felt good about going to school there, but I did not like their music program at all. Like when I had to declare my major, because they pretty much forced you to. I declared it as music, but what I was really doing is I was just taking my general classes because I really wasn't too sure what I was going to do. I did that for like a year and a half, maybe even 2 years. Was just taking my generals, trying to figure out
without a rudder.
Yeah, just trying to figure out what to do. And it actually was kind of funny because I got like called in by the dean of the school, being like, "Why aren't you taking music classes?" And I'm like, "Oh, okay." So I went around. I was trying to figure out, okay, maybe if they have like a sound engineering program. And they did. They actually had I think it was called like audio engineering or something like that, and I wanted to take it, but it was something that was only for the theater department staff. Like it was a class only for the staff. So I talked to the guy who taught that class, and as it turned out, it was really just, acoustics and mic placement and recording. And if I really wanted to do anything like, what they do in the movies as far as like sound design, he said, yeah, you're in the wrong school. And then gave me, said, here's 2 schools that you could probably go to. So I was like, okay, well, this is kind of bummed out. But during that time, again, huge nerd, video games, yada, yada, yada. I think it was actually during this time that I met Shane Jantz, who is also a part of Lumaglyph. He's the guy who actually got me into art. I saw some of the stuff he was doing. I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. And we went to this LAN party called Lanalot. Really, it was just, a bunch of guys just meeting at somebody's apartment, every Friday. So we just have a LAN party. But then we decided to, make it big. Let's turn this into like a big event where we'll have like 100 people or something like that. So in October 2003, we had a Lanalot Oktoberfest, which we helped organize, and I actually designed the logo and website for it. And I recall, I mean, I kind of felt like, I knew I was a little bit artistically inclined, like, like I did the ASCII art for our BBS, and I used Zara 3D to create 3D text logos, for Eric, and, it was just, just poking around with all those 3D, with all the software. Again, more just technical ability, not so much creative ability. And, but I actually designed a logo for the LAN party, which was actually not that bad, looking back at it. And in March 2004, because I was I think actually during that time, just to backtrack a little bit, I took a biology class, and one of the assignments in the biology class was to do something creative. Just do something that was creative, that was kind of based on biology, and pretty much we could do anything we wanted to. And so I was like, I like the demo scene. I like watching demos and stuff like that. What if I did a 3D animation using Animation Master that was like, viruses and bacteria and, all this stuff. So I did this animation called Freakishly Large Receptors. And that's kind of an inside joke with the within the class. I won't get into that. And actually, this video is not online. I should probably do that at some point. So you can't Google it because it doesn't exist. I haven't uploaded it yet. But it was like a demo scene inspired video of the microscopic world to techno music, of course, not mine though, which is actually why it hasn't been put online yet. But anyway, the instructor was blown away. He was like, "Wow." And some of the people in the class were like, I actually got like an emotional response, like watching this animation thing that you did. And actually doing that project made me not want to use Animation Master anymore, because it was patch based. It used spline patches. It was great for organic stuff, but when you try to do anything like that was not organic, it just didn't work. And triangle patches, the textures were like all weird and swirly, and it took forever to render. Oh my goodness. Oh, it was it was tough. it was a hard thing to use. So and then I think I read a Slashdot story about Blender being open sourced. I'm like, I remember that program. That program is a piece of crap. But it's free, and I guess people like it. I'm going to try it again. And maybe I'll actually read the manual. RTFM works. I read the manual, and I'm like, wow, this software is actually pretty darn good. And whenever there is a feature that I wanted, is like, I'm going to do something that's going to have like reflective surfaces, but there's no ray tracing yet. Bam, they added ray tracing. And I just kept on going on from there. I'm like, car paint has this weird kind of text, basically to get the effect, it's called a ramp shader. I didn't know that, but then the next version, bam, they added ramp shaders. I'm like, oh, sweet, So I really liked using Blender, and I used Blender to create a opening ceremonies video thing for Lanalot. And I also did the music for that. I did the music using Buzz Tracker, which was a software synth. I didn't like the song that I did. It was really cookie cutter. And Buzz Tracker, I was really restricted to the software that I was using. But, people liked the video, the opening ceremonies thing. So that was when I started to think, I'm actually doing more art-related stuff than even like music or sound. Maybe I should actually get an education in graphic design, which I found out was what, like logo design and doing all these little motion pieces, because it's not really like animation. It's just objects moving around very simply. Like a spinning logo. Yeah, that's motion design. So that was when I started taking. It was like, all right, I'm going to be a graphic designer. I'm going to take graphic design classes. I did a logo. I did a website. This is graphic design. I'm going to get an education in this so I can stop taking all these general classes, and maybe play less video games. And the first class they had me take was a drawing class. And shockingly, I was actually pretty good at it. And then I started taking, more art classes, like figure drawing and head drawing, and actually head drawing first, then figure drawing, and found out that I was actually doing pretty good in those classes. And then I was more interested in doing like illustration and painting. So even though I was a graphic design major, I was just drawn to all these, illustration related classes. So much so that I pretty much, filled up all my, credits with those illustration classes. And then there's also the Oktoberfest, Lanalot Oktoberfest 2004. That video is online. It's on YouTube. And I did the music for that. The music was better. The animation, was all right. But that was pretty much the last song that I ever did that was just, on my own. I stopped doing music after that. Except for one exception, which I'll get into later. But I learned something while I was taking all these drawing classes, and I was like, why am I a better artist than a musician? And it was because of how I learned.